My nickname is Porky. My brothers gave it to me. That's because I was a portly kid, and I reminded them of Porky Pig. One summer, I transformed my life eating watermelons and 9 other foods that I'm going to share with you and the science behind why they work. Now, you would think that I would gain weight eating watermelon because it's full of sugar. But nope, sugar is not the problem when it comes to weight gain. It's a symptom of the problem. And I'll tell you more about that later. The watermelon worked because it's not just a workout to lift it up, but it's actually helped me to burn my own body fat. Now, 92% of this watermelon is essentially water. Trust me, it's super heavy. And 100 grams of watermelon has only 30 calories. 100 grams of boiled chicken breast, which is roughly 3 ounces of chicken, is 165 calories. And that means you can eat a ton more watermelon for less calories. Now, if you actually needed 2,000 calories to maintain your weight, you would need to eat more than 1 whole watermelon that is 15 inches long and 7.5 inches in diameter. Have you ever done that? I don't think you would feel so good because it's like drinking 5 liters of water or 1.3 gallons of water. There's no need to be that extreme. Just drinking 2 cups of water before meals have been shown to help people reduce weight. If you don't have a watermelon handy right now, just go and get 2 glasses of water and drink that before every meal. At the time, I didn't know the data. I just really love watermelon. Now, number 3 are red tomatoes. Tomatoes help fight against leptin resistance. Leptin is a hormone that signals to your brain that you are full. So when it works right, it turns off your appetite. The problem with obesity is that it disturbs the leptin signaling and people develop leptin resistance, preventing the leptin to signal their brain. And without leptin, the brain just simply wants more and more food. It thinks it's hungry, and this causes people to overeat. What's even worse is that without leptin, you don't burn your own body's fat. Leptin is the signaling for fat metabolism by your brain, and leptin resistance is associated with a higher risk of infections, autoimmune disease, malnutrition, and chronic inflammation. People who are obese have fat cells that are actually calling for help, and it produces a lot of leptin. But the brain is ignoring that leptin. It's unresponsive because it has less leptin receptors, and the ones that are around just don't work properly. And as a result, the brain thinks that your body is starving, and it changes your behavior so that you seek energy-rich foods. Therefore, this reduces burning of your own calories at rest. And this is a perfect recipe for weight gain. Now, when leptin goes down, you're hungry and you will increase your appetite and you will be less motivated to move and to exercise. This all slows down your metabolic rate. Processed foods, they've actually been shown to increase leptin levels as well as inflammation. And when you eat those processed foods, especially ones high in fat, you elevate your blood fat in your bloodstream, which can interfere with your own leptin signaling. But diets high in insoluble fiber actually can help to lower leptin levels and are protective against obesity. And my diet worked because instead of counting calories, trying to fast, or trying to eat less processed foods, I simply focused on the antidote. And I focused on foods high in hydration and high in fiber. Simply put, my mom, she bought real whole plants, and little did I know that I was just simply eating healthy foods and building healthy habits that have lasted my lifetime. Now, I remember that summer as if it was yesterday because I made a promise to myself that I would lose weight, and I devised a plan, and it worked. But now I realize that that was the easy part, the weight loss. The hard part is keeping that weight loss off. And it became even harder as a young adult because I was always pressed for time and I was surrounded by processed foods at church, at school. It's just incredible how as a society we have normalized chemicals in our food and we go out of our way to create unnatural, highly addictive, artificial junk food. We are all desensitized and have disconnected our health from the chemicals that we put in our bodies. It's akin to thinking we are invincible teenagers forever, taking unnecessary high risks and convinced by marketing that it's a good idea. How many of you have watched commercials in between cartoons. That was my life. And that's why I always asked my parents to buy cereals, even though I didn't like them. I just wanted that toy at the end of the box. Now, when I was on my own, I didn't realize that eating those processed foods actually forced me to eat less whole foods because it made me full. And in my mind, I knew I was eating too many calories, and I knew I had to cut calories somewhere to maintain my weight. So I began to skip the antidote, and I skipped whole foods until I gained too much weight. And then I went back to eating whole plants. And like everybody else, I would gain weight when I started focusing on individual ingredients like high protein, low carbohydrate, low fat. And this was really a setup for me to get unhealthy. I know I'm not the only one because I talk to so many people who focus on individual single nutrients as opposed to eating whole foods. And this is why vegan diets can be very unhealthy. Have you ever seen the ingredients label of vegan processed foods? Luckily, when I first started my diet, I couldn't go shopping by myself because I had no money. I was still living at home. I was in 8th grade. And my parents, they valued whole plant foods just as much as they valued processed foods. They grew fresh fruits and vegetables in their garden. So I knew what real good food tastes like. And boy, the stuff in the supermarket just doesn't taste like that. So after years of personal health struggles, it dawned on me that modern technology, the so-called state-of-the-art new foods, they are always going to be inferior to the natural whole plants that God has created for us. So I wised up and again focused my goal on getting healthy. And as a result, not only have I kept the weight off, I don't go hungry, and I've been able to convert a lot of that fat into muscle. And this is why I also made it a point to eat protein-rich foods. In fact, my default protein of choice is tofu, simply because I grew up on it. I enjoy the taste, and it's super convenient. Now, tofu is a processed food, but the processing actually retains most of its nutrients. This is not like soy protein isolates that are making your veggie burger. I used to eat that stuff, and then I read the ingredients and realized I was eating individual nutrients as opposed to eating whole foods. I personally love tofu because it comes in all different textures. Have you ever had silken tofu? It's super soft like pudding. And if you get firm tofu, it kind of resembles the texture of a soft cheese. If you blend the tofu, it can get quite creamy, even though tofu is low in saturated fat. This makes tofu the perfect food to help reverse insulin resistance because it's a saturated fat that actually inhibits your carbohydrate metabolism. When you have excess saturated fat in your bloodstream, your pancreas, your liver, and your muscle actually begins to store them. That is not where the fat belongs. Now, it would be okay if it didn't actually damage these organs, but saturated fat inhibits the ability of your pancreas, your muscle, and your liver to help you regulate your sugars. Now, you can either eat that saturated fat or you can simply overeat calories so that your own body is making that saturated fat. Either way, the same end result happens. You start getting insulin resistant, which means that you start getting carbohydrate metabolism issues. Now, the other benefit of tofu is that it contains phytoestrogens, which are protective against hormone-responsive cancers like breast cancer. So the antioxidants in tofu, like isoflavones, they actually have anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer properties. And by the way, tofu is a great source of calcium to help maintain your bone integrity. Now, if you've ever tried tofu, you know it's pretty bland. So I basically started using tofu as my white rice. It was really hard to give up white rice, but I had to do it because I had gestational diabetes. And at that point, my carbohydrate metabolism was all messed up that I literally had to reduce my carbs. But it wasn't the white rice that caused my gestational diabetes. However, because I already had gestational diabetes, I was having a difficult time metabolizing empty carbs, like white rice and simple sugars. What actually destroyed my carbohydrate metabolism was that I was eating high-fat foods like deep fried foods and lots of meat. And this happened over time. I would gain weight going out, and then I would try to dial back the weight by going on a whole food plant-based diet for a few days, and I would be yo-yoing back and forth every week. I knew I would gain weight, and every time I gained weight, the weight just happened to just go straight to my belly. And when I was young, I didn't realize I was collecting visceral fat. In fact, fat cells can release powerful signaling molecules in your bloodstream to cause chronic inflammation. Your body has multiple types of fat that function differently. And you have fats that make up your cellular membranes. They are called phospholipids. They protect every single cell in your body. And in between these phospholipids, you should be having omega-3 fatty acids. They help to keep your membranes fluid, so they're flexible. Think of your cell as a water balloon and the membrane as the lipid layer. If the balloon isn't flexible and you put water in it, it's just going to pop. You don't want your cells to do that. But the thing is, your body can't make omega-3 fats. They're actually essential to get from your diet. And this is why it's important to eat seeds to help you get healthy and to lose weight. Now, I began to eat a ton of chia seeds, which are packed with protein, soluble fiber, and omega-3 fats. So that's why number 5, you should get yourself some chia seeds. They've been shown to reduce triglycerides, which increase inflammation. Did you know that if you grind up chia seeds, it's actually a great egg substitute and can help to bind your food when you're cooking it? 1 tablespoon of ground chia seed in 3 tablespoons of water can replace an entire egg in recipes. Another benefit of chia seeds is that it's a great tool to help you poop. So what you do is you dissolve a tablespoon of chia seeds in a full 8-ounce glass of water, stir it up, let it sit there for about 20 minutes, and allow it to get that mucoid coat. You'll see it'll kind of look like tapioca. So you drink that and then you follow it with another glass of water. You wait about a couple hours, and if it doesn't work, you can repeat it. So I used to make a chia seed pudding. So I basically take my favorite plant-based milk, put a tablespoon of chia seed in it to about, let's say, half a cup of milk, and I stir it up. I let it sit there. And the next day, it'll semi-solidify so that it scoops up like a pudding. Now, the reason why all these foods work is because when you're eating plants, you're actually increasing your basal metabolic rate. And that's because it takes more energy to digest those plants because of the fiber. Now, do you remember how celery actually takes more energy to eat it than you can extract from it? Well, that's kind of the idea every time you eat whole foods with fiber. Now, number 6 are another high fiber, high protein food, and that is nuts. Now, if you want to see a handout on the amount of protein in some nuts, shine your phone on this QR code to get a free handout that I made just for you. The problem with nuts is that people are consuming them with highly processed foods like refined sugar and starches. Kind of like Rocky Road ice cream. Now, some nuts is better than no nuts, but if you eat it with refined starches and sugars, you're not going to be able to lose that weight. But if you eat whole nuts, they can help improve your circulation, help you be smarter, make wiser food choices, help you reduce your appetite, and stop your craving from highly caloric, less nutritious junk food. As a young child, I'm pretty sure I had leptin resistance. I was unmotivated to change or even get up from the couch, despite being teased by my brothers my entire life. There is no need to feel sorry for me. That's what siblings do and what Asian cultures do within the family. And honestly, it was a good reminder for me to change, even though I didn't really care to do it. Do you know how many teachers have messed up my name? So basically, their teasing was kind of background noise, and it trained me to be resistant to really mean comments. That's probably why I have the courage to be on YouTube. But I also didn't grow up with the pressures of social media, having unrealistic input all day and all night. You know, as a kid, I didn't have a computer. There was no internet. I didn't have a cell phone. In fact, our TV didn't even work. So pretty much I was left to invent my own weight loss diet plan. Now, even though I never had any formal classes on nutrition as a young child, my parents, they bought a ton of fresh fruits and vegetables. In fact, they even had a beautiful garden. So I didn't enter that diet clueless. I knew that junk food was bad because that's what I was eating. But you can't realistically expect a kid to just resist cakes and candy being dangled in front of them because of the idea that junk food is bad. But that summer, something clicked in my brain. And that's when I began to change my diet. And the more whole foods I ate, the more motivated I felt to keep up my healthy diet. At the beginning of the summer, my jeans were a size 14. Actually, it was hitting on size 16. And by the end of that summer, I was a size 8. And I've never looked back. Now, currently, I am more metabolically healthier than I've ever been in my young adult life because I basically didn't eat right when I was on my own in college or medical school. Now, I wish I could say that when I was in 8th grade, I was wise beyond my years. No, my parents just set me up for success because they would keep foods that were good for me and would help keep me full. And my mom would go out of her way to find the best produce for me to eat. And I noticed that whenever I ate fresh fruits and vegetables, I always felt satisfied and I would be full. And in fact, in college, I avoided gaining the freshman 15 because every time my pants got tight, I would basically eat more fruits and vegetables, and that helped me control my weight. And now looking back, I realized that whole foods, they're low in fat, they're low in calories, they're high in hydration, they're high in fiber, and they're high in phytonutrients. And together, all of this helped to regulate my hormones, decrease my insulin, decrease my sugar spikes, increase my leptin sensitivity, and increase my blood flow through the metabolites like butyrate and nitric oxide from feeding my gut microbiome properly. And as a side benefit, I was able to keep my weight off. But highly processed foods, even if they are like vegan olive oil or coconut oil, they're not going to get you healthy and help you lose weight because people tend to add those oils to highly refined carbohydrate foods. But if you like carbohydrates, then eat number 7, potatoes. But there is a trick to eating them so that you don't gain weight. In fact, if you make them right, it can help you lose weight. And that is to eat them boiled in water. And then refrigerate them and then eat them the next day. And then don't add any fat. Now remember, fat and sugar, they can't be metabolized together. The presence of one turns off the proper metabolism of the other. This means if you eat fat, you're going to get insulin resistant or carbohydrate intolerance, which is prediabetes. And when it gets really bad, that's diabetes. Fat in the blood signals an abundance of energy to your body. And when you have too much energy, your body will stop using up your sugar. This increases your blood sugar in your bloodstream, which then stimulates the production of insulin. And insulin shuts off your fat metabolism and makes your body save fat. We know all this because that's how we treat diabetic ketoacidosis. We give them insulin, and the presence of insulin shuts off ketone production. And that's another reason why if you're going to eat potatoes, they need to be low in fat. Now, even though vegetable oils like olive oil and soybean oil have been used for thousands of years, the commercialization of oils, that didn't happen until the mid-1800s. Marketing actually convinced the public that these oils are healthy foods, despite the fact that they didn't have any evidence to support it. If you haven't noticed, marketing is a very powerful force that dictates what we put in our bodies, who we trust as our politicians, and what we believe in when it comes to science. And that's why you can't blindly trust people on the internet. You have to go read up about it on your own. And I know some of you don't like to learn about the history of nutrition, but it's important to remember the price people paid to understand what we eat or don't eat has real life consequences in how healthy we are today. People are just very good at burying their mistakes instead of reflecting on them and doing better. And diseases and malnutrition, they're all coming back. Actually, they never went away. They're just presenting in different ways. And most people don't see what I see because they don't have a privilege to be in an acute care hospital setting. And if you actually saw life through my lens, I'm sure you would change your diet dramatically too. As physicians, we try very hard to practice evidence-based medicine. And the greatest evidence comes with the test of time. It's hard to lock people up. However, there are generations of human subjects that have eaten certain foods and thrived, or have eaten certain foods and gotten ill. That's pretty good evidence to know whether or not that ingredient is good or bad for you. I don't need people to be locking people up to test them in a metabolic ward to determine the exact biochemical mechanism in which people are getting sick from the chemicals in our food. If you think about it, everything in your food are literally drugs. Drugs are chemicals that interact with your body. And these chemicals will either help you flourish or hurt your body. And of course, the poison is in the dose. And whenever there's a new prescription drug on the market, personally, I hesitate to be the first prescriber because I know there's going to be a lot more side effects that aren't quite worked out yet. I think of new food product creations the same way. I really hesitate to be the first one to eat those. Now, a lot of what we're eating is so far from ancient foods. Your cooking oil is the invention of industrialized food. Despite the fact that vegetable oils have been around for thousands of years in ancient cultures, but it was only after the invention of machines and technology to mass scale it and commercialize oils. The first commercialized oil was corn oil. People even ate cottonseed oil. And it wasn't until the 1990s, over 100 years later, that people realized processed oils, they're not really healthy foods. Now, of course, every oil is different. Take, for example, cottonseed oil. The raw cottonseed oil actually contains a toxin called gossypol that can cause infertility. Cottonseed oils are extracted from cotton seeds, which are the byproducts of cotton fiber production. So poor people didn't want to waste the seeds, but the people who consumed the cotton seeds became infertile in rural China. This is because when the cotton seed is just pressed, you get a lot of oil, but that oil is full of gossypol. Women became amenorrheic, or they lost their periods, and men, they became infertile. Now, we can learn from them. This is an example of how the history of nutrition can help society today to be better and to be healthier and not repeat their same mistakes. And as a result, companies now, they refine cottonseed oils to remove the gossypol. And if you don't refine your oil and you consume unadulterated oil with gossypol, you will suffer infertility. Now, I've never used cottonseed oils to cook. Honestly, I've never even seen it except in processed foods. But the food industry, they commonly use it in bakery products and fried snacks. So in Hong Kong, they advise the public to be careful when they consume cottonseed oil products and really any oils and fats because it increases the risk of being obese and overweight. In America, we genetically modified cotton seeds through breeding to produce low gossypol cottonseed oils. Most American potato chips, they don't seem to be fried in cottonseed oil, but occasionally you'll find some potato products made in America still fried in cottonseed oils. But really, the key is not to eat anything deep fried, especially your potato if you want to lose weight. But if you really wanted to get healthy and lose weight, then you should upgrade your white potato to a sweet potato, number 8. And here is why. You can actually eat the skin of a sweet potato. It's nutritious and full of fiber. But the skin of a white potato is actually toxic because it contains a chemical in it called glycoalkaloids. You know those green eyes that you get on your potatoes? Well, you get them because they're actually increasing in glycoalkaloids as well as chlorophyll. High levels of glycoalkaloids can cause diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and headaches. And that's why I would never eat regular potato skins, especially green ones. And this is why it's important to peel all your common potatoes before you boil them. Glycoalkaloids are naturally produced in all potatoes, and it's found throughout the entire plant, concentrating in the flowers and the sprouts. If you want to reduce glycoalkaloids on your potatoes, you need to really keep them away from light and prevent them from turning green. Damaged potatoes also have higher glycoalkaloids. Now, if you do get glycoalkaloid toxicity, the symptoms can start within 30 minutes or even 12 hours later. If you get really high doses, it can cause neurological effects, including drowsiness and confusion. In Hong Kong, 2 people actually got tongue numbness and burning immediately after eating cooked potatoes. So they checked their urine for solanine, and it was positive. That meant they did get glycoalkaloid poisoning, and they traced it back to the supermarket that they bought it from and made the market remove all the potatoes. They also tested the potatoes that they bought, and indeed, it had high levels of glycoalkaloids. But you don't have to worry about that in the sweet potato because they are not related to the common potato. The common potato is a tuber from the nightshade family, while the sweet potato is from the morning glory family. Sweet potatoes are considered to be a superfood because it is ranked as one of the healthiest and cheapest foods on the entire planet. Have you ever heard of the Okinawa sweet potatoes? Okinawans are one of the longest lived people on earth, and they eat purple sweet potatoes every day. Now, when you see that purple color, it means that the plant is rich in antioxidants called anthocyanins, which can promote the growth of healthy bacteria like bifidobacterium and lactobacillus in your gut. And did you know that 80% of the protein found in sweet potato is a type of serine protease inhibitor that appears to have anti-cancer effects? Sweet potatoes are also an excellent source of vitamin A, which supports your eye and your immune system. However, if you bake your sweet potatoes, you will lose 80% of that vitamin A. And the best way to consume sweet potatoes is to boil them in water. Boiling serves two purposes. Number one, it thins out the cell walls because the starch will swell up. This enhances the bioavailability of its nutrients. It can also help to buffer sugar because you're actually eating a hydrated food. And the lower your blood sugar, the lower your insulin, and the less fat you will pack on. The opposite happens when you start gaining weight. You actually have high insulin levels. Sweet potatoes also have 4 grams of fiber per cup. This means that you can increase your basal metabolic rate, or the ability to burn fat. Now, number 9 is a tasty condiment that you can add to any of the foods that we just talked about, and that's balsamic vinegar. Balsamic vinegar is my favorite vinegar. It just makes all my food taste more gourmet. But if you like other vinegars, you can try them too. The main point is that vinegar has acetic acid. Now, many ancient cultures have figured out that eating vinegar with carbohydrates can help to blunt sugar surges. And that's why Europeans, they dip their bread in balsamic vinegar, and Japanese, they put rice vinegar in their sushi rice. Another way to do it is to eat sourdough. Now, the benefit of adding vinegar doesn't just blunt blood sugar spikes. It actually makes you full longer. It makes you full during that meal, and it works even 2 hours later. Now, number 10 may delightfully surprise you, and that is dark chocolate. When you consume dark chocolate in moderation, you can actually promote weight loss. And it does this by helping you feel full. It reduces your cravings and your appetite through the action of the hormone ghrelin. In fact, people not only ate less during that meal, they also ate less in the following meal if they had some dark chocolate. That was at least 70%. Dark chocolate appears to also improve insulin sensitivity. And that is only if the chocolate contains polyphenols, because those polyphenols can also enhance your mood. But unfortunately, chocolate, it can contain cadmium and lead. And if you want to learn which is the healthiest chocolate to eat, watch the next video.